or who did have to sweat it out, I guess, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then ultimately got some pretty big disappointment, was running back Najee Harris, who had his fifth-year option declined by the Pittsburgh Steelers, $6.7 million. They will not pay him in 2025, making him an unrestricted free agent instead. It was a move that I think to this point we kind of saw coming, but it didn't mean anybody agreed with it. What were your thoughts when it became official that Najee Harris did not have his fifth-year option picked up?
Yeah, not really surprising at all, to be quite honest. I think I kind of saw it coming. It didn't seem like the Steelers had any kind of motivation to make a move on it. I don't think there was much to think about. And as it drew out longer and longer, it was pretty evident that the Steelers just didn't really want to do it, that there wasn't really any negotiating to do. There wasn't really any thinking about it. They were going to let it pass. And
Yep.
I guess just didn't want to let it be known to the world that they weren't going to do it. I mean, it seemed like everyone knew it, but we had to kind of pretend that it was a possibility that they would pick up that option eventually. Yeah, not surprised, but I don't know if this is necessarily the best move for the Steelers long term. I mean, I thought, $6.7 million for a guy like Najee Harris, who has produced at a consistently high level, has only, in my opinion, gotten more efficient, I think, as his career has gone on. It fits so well into this role, this kind of splitting carries role with Jaylen Warren as well. I thought it wasn't a ton of money for a guy who has done so much for you, and that's what I guess surprised me a little bit more. But I think I do understand the logic. I think, you look at what the Steelers are going to do on offense this year. They're going to put the ball in Najee's hands a bunch. And if he has a really great season like I'm expecting him to, he's only going to get more expensive. He's only getting older while he does that, and he's going to put more tread on those tires. I think the Steelers just don't want to pay him. Don't want to pay him after a big season. So I guess you understand that. You assume if you're in the NFL these days that you can find that running backs are a dime a dozen, and you can find one in the draft that can be just as good. I'm not sure I believe in that, but it seems to be the Steelers' logic, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah, so just to go through a list here of all the running backs that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had before and during Najee Harris's tenure with the team. Let's just list them off because, as you say, dime a dozen. They're all over the place. You can go find running back anywhere, right? Unless you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. These are the names here: Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Fitz Toussaint, Dree Archer, Trey Edmonds, Anthony McFarland, Kalen Ballage, Stephen Ridley, Jordan Todman, Terrell Watson, Gareth White, shout out Gareth White, former Chicago Bear, Josh Harris, Tony Brooks, James, Quadri Olson, and Wendell Smallwood. And then appeared Jaylen Warren, and then it was Najee Harris. I don't think that it's as easy to find a running back as the Pittsburgh Steelers may think it is. Yeah. And I think it might come back to bite them in the butt. That being said, I do think that you could find a running back to be a number two, and I think that taking a shot at finding a running back to be a number two isn't a terrible outlook if you think that Jaylen Warren is your running back one. Do you think that, all the talk of, well, they'll extend him next year if he has a good season, is any of that hold up? Because I won't lie to you. I've heard a lot of it. I believe none of it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I don't think you needed to wait around and see any more from Najee Harris. And I mean, I think this guy hasn't slowed down at all at any point in his career. He has produced at essentially the same level for his entire career. The only reason his numbers look worse is because because Jaylen Warren has progressed and become such a revelation so quickly. I don't know why you wouldn't pay $6.7 million now as opposed to, having to pay him maybe $10 million. That's the only reason you're extending him is if he earns that money, like he has to be good enough to earn that. I mean, if he stinks, you're not re-signing him. If he's good, I don't think you're re-signing him either for a bigger price tag than you would this year.
No.
So I don't think there's really any chance that they re-sign him. In fact, I think, all the talk about, this is a prove it year for Najee. We want to see what he does in Arthur Smith's offense. I think this honestly has more to do with seeing if Jaylen Warren can be a number one. Like you said, it's easier to find a number two, and I think they're assuming that Jaylen Warren can be a number one, and that's got to be what they're hoping for, because if Jaylen Warren is not a number one, they're not screwed, but they're in a real tough situation with their running backs room because you just let a guy walk who has done nothing but produce for you for 3 years, probably going to do the same next year, and if I was a betting man, I'd say do it for the next at least 2-3 years. So they're taking a risk here. They are taking a little bit of a gamble. I get it's not the biggest gamble in the world, but
Yeah.
they are taking a gamble nonetheless.
Yeah. So two parts here. I agree with you with the Jalen thing, and I want to talk about that in a second. But when it comes to Najee, I think Najee's already moved on. I don't think there are chances of re-signing Najee Harris are real whatsoever. Like if I'm Najee Harris, I'm looking at it and I'm saying I'm going to price myself out of Pittsburgh because just like you said, you're not gonna not pick up his 5th-year option and say, all right, we're looking for another 1,000-yard season, then we're going to pay you $8 million. No, that's not going to happen. Like they were looking for everything that they had. They knew what they got in a running back. Just like you said, they're looking for Jaylen Warren to become a number 1, and for them to say, okay, that's a much cheaper option. That's the guy that we're going to go to. They're just saving face with the whole we're going to extend Najee Harris thing. And, I get it, but you're just saving face. Guys, this is a public service announcement, and it is urgent. You think that you have mastered the look in sweatpants and joggers? Well, guess what, my friend? You have not. You are one step away from wearing pajamas in public, and your significant other is starting to think that you look like a slob. It's time to take your sexy ass and put it in some jeans. If you take anything away from today's show, it's that the perfect jean isn't just another pair of stiff, uncomfortable, nut-crushing pants. They have cracked the code on solving your denim difficulties, and it is time to rejoice. Check them out. Always looking good. The Perfect Jean makes great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants and more stretchy than a kangaroo's pouch. It's made from a special denim fabric that's super soft, just like sweatpants, just like joggers, but it doesn't make you look like a slob. And the best part, they make 6 fits from skinny to thick. Waist sizes from 26 to 50 and lengths from 26 to 38. So whether you are a thick guy or a short king, or guess what, anything in between, they perfectly fit your body and accentuate your assets. Pun intended. Trust us when we say that these are truly fucking perfect jeans. Once you try them on, you'll never go back. Once again, boom. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjean.nyc, or just Google The Perfect Jean and use our code ALLSteelers15 for 15% off. Look it. I have been looking for a while. I have been talking to my fiance daily. I need to find a look. I've tried them all. I tried khakis. I tried joggers. I tried sweatpants. I tried shorts. Nothing fits me like the perfect jeans fit me. The Perfect Jean doesn't just stop there, though. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide the beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. It's soft like butter without shrinking in the wash like all your other t-shirts. It's just, perfect. The Perfect Jean always has free shipping, always has free exchanges, and always has free returns. So you can have peace of mind knowing that your order is completely risk-free. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use our code ALLSteelers15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code ALLSteelers15. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please, please, please give us some support and tell them that we sent you. Fuck your khakis and get the Perfect Jean. If Najee prices himself out of Pittsburgh, which is very likely, they're not re-signing him. Second to that is, if I'm Najee Harris, why do you want to stay in Pittsburgh? Like, why not? If you're going to go price yourself out of here, if you're going to go at least get an opportunity to test free agency, go test free agency. Any player who has an opportunity to go see what their value is worth before re-signing with their current team should do so, because chances are you're going to make more money in free agency than you are in the team that you are currently on. And I'm sorry, unless the Pittsburgh Steelers go and win a Super Bowl this year, and and even if they do, like, you just won a Super Bowl, cool. Let's keep it trucking. Let's see how much money we can make. Yeah. Running back lives are short in the NFL, and if you got a ring, you got nothing else to work for except for money. I don't think Najee has any intentions of coming back to Pittsburgh, and I think that this is the last year, and I think both sides are pretty clear that this is their last year. When it comes to Jalen, you could you could tender him. He's a restricted free agent next year, so you could keep him for really cheap. If that doesn't work out, you're screwed. That being said, I'm not necessarily like against. Like I think Jalen's going to be fine. If I had to, if I had to pick whether or not I thought Jalen Warren could turn into a running back one or not, I think he could, and I think he'd be damn good at it. But you're still putting all your eggs in one basket for a guy who's been your number two to give up a guy who's been a very reliable number one.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I'm with you. I'm pretty confident that Jalen can be good and he can be a number one, but there are no guarantees there. Like, I mean, you read off that list of Steelers running backs in the past. I mean, I'm sure there were a bunch of guys in that group that everyone thought had potential, and they moved on to them because they didn't work out. They weren't a Najee Harris. I think it's kind of a bird in the hand worth two in the bush type of thing. Like,
Yep.
yeah, maybe Jalen Warren can turn into a Najee Harris, but you've got a Najee Harris right now.
Yep.
Like it's I don't know. I think I think this is a move that kind of is playing too much into kind of the value, like trying to maximize value out of guys instead of just kind of taking a good player when you have one.
Yep.
And again, like for not that much money, like $6.7 million is chump change in the grand scheme of things. Like this is not something, it's not an amount of money that I'm worried about. So I really, I think this is overthinking it to a certain extent, declining Najee's option. That said, if I had to project forward, did I have to tell you, will they be okay afterwards? Will they kind of get away with this? I think they will, quite honestly. I think they have a ton of confidence in Jalen, and I don't think that confidence is misplaced.
No, I agree. I think that it works out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I agree with you. Like, I don't think that the money has anything to do with it. I think the Steelers look at Najee Harris and say, I'm pretty sure you're coming to the end of the line here, and at some point you're going to fall off, and we're not willing to wait around until you do. Like, you're a running back that's going to be 27, pushing 28 by the time his fifth-year option's up. Like, that's not, you're too close to 30 to make that worth anything. So at any moment you could fall off. And I think the Steelers look at it that way. Like, I think they're being kind of like skeptical, like, hey, we don't know if this is going to last much longer with Najee and the amount of workload that we've put on him. And with the knee injury last year, and, like how long could somebody hold up? That being said, if he does and he holds up for the next 5 years, and I hope he does, I'm always pro player. I hope Najee Harris has a phenomenal career outside of Pittsburgh. I mean, the Steelers look like they just made a massive mistake because $6.7 million, especially when you have two guys. Like, you have your running back duo and an offense that is going to run the football all the time. Why try to fix something if it's not broken? And the Steelers running back game is not broken. Doesn't make much sense to me, but that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what they've chosen to do.